Good morning, Lourdes. How are you today?
Terrific. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So today we get to do our Q&A and hopefully get through a couple of questions. I know that sometimes we only answer one, but let's see how we do today, right? Because it's a lot to cover. So let's just jump right in and get started with this question. All right. So this question came to us. When something happens to me, someone says something, and I feel challenged. Why is it, or why is my go-to response of feeling and thinking that there's something wrong with me? So basically, why is it that when I feel some sort of emotional attack, why do I go to my self-blame, right? Why do I go to thinking something's wrong with me as opposed to thinking anything else, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of compassion for this person because that is often like the automatic response. Something's wrong with me. What's wrong with me? And I think oftentimes people feel like they're the only ones who have that experience, but I
Right.
think it's more, I think it's more common than one would guess, and it's like an easy go-to to like blame yourself for something happening, or something going wrong, or when things go south. It's I think it's an automatic response often for people. And so I just want to, I don't know, touch in on the common humanity of that, right?
Right. It's a trigger for a lot of people, right? Because, and I believe our topic next week is about, seeking outside validation. So this thing about blaming ourselves, it triggers things like that fear of rejection that we might have had in our earlier experiences, and it could be, it may be conditioned. It may be that as children we were rejected, and it came through with a lot of criticism and maybe conditional love and conditional validation.
Right. As children, I think if we get the message often that we're wrong, or we're not worthy or acceptable as we are, it becomes really difficult to accept ourselves. And so, yeah, fear of rejection, perfectionism, also the belief that we have to meet these super high standards, can lead to harsh self-judgment when we fall short. And with perfectionism, we often set a standard for ourselves that we would never impose on anyone else.
Right, right, right. I mean, they're so unrealistic, and they're really damaging, right, to our self-esteem, because we set these goals and we set ourselves up for failure, and then that goes down another trajectory, and that becomes, that I'm not good enough, because, well, it's that no one is that perfect. We all have our intrinsic flaws, and that's just part of being human, right? No one's born, perfect. And then that social comparison, right? Where again we're influenced so much by social media, where we're comparing ourselves to what others are doing, because we tend to post the best of our lives. We don't post a lot of what's wrong. And when people post what's actually going on in their lives, they don't get the attention that they're looking for. And so it's like it's such a loop. You post, oh, everything's fantastic, and people think, oh, their life is perfect, and then they think, oh, my life isn't perfect. or they post things that are negative, and then they think that person's just so negative, I'm not going to follow them. They're always so down. So it's it can be a little insane, but that social comparison, we have to focus on, our own lives, what we want to happen, how we're contributing with our community, how we're contributing to our family, what our goals are for present day and the future, and a lot of letting go of the past, not letting history dictate your future.
Yeah, it's much more useful and beneficial for ourselves and our own, mental well-being to not compare ourselves to others, situationally or otherwise. It's so much more useful to simply compare yourself to where you were yesterday, last month, last year, and focused on moving forward on your own goals and the kind of person that you want to become, the things that you want to achieve, not comparing yourselves with what others are doing or how they're living their lives. Focus on your own trajectory.
Correct. I agree entirely with what you said. Definitely.
Yeah. And then the last one is cognitive distortions, these negative thought patterns that can skew our perceptions of ourselves, right?
Right. Yeah. That those cognitive distortions, like that all or nothing thinking that we have, viewing those situations in black and white terms with absolutely no middle ground, right? Where you're like not realizing that there's so many shades of gray, because there's so many factors that need to go in to what actually happened, and it's not only detrimental for your progress and your growth as a person to do that, that all or nothing thinking, because if you start to allow for other influences, other things, you start to notice, well, it could have been this, it could have been that, then you open yourself to be not only able to bounce back, but also to pivot with what's happening, because you realize it's not as simple as you thought it was. It's not black and white. There are a lot of factors in this, right? And then also when the same thing, overgeneralize situations, you're making these broad conclusions. The all or nothing thinking and that overgeneralization, they're both extremely detrimental.
Yeah. And, also discounting the positive, minimizing or dismissing the positive experiences. I always kind of equate this to building a wall. You have to start with the foundation. Without the foundation, you're not going to be able to, lay that first layer of bricks.
Mm-hmm.
I've never built a wall, but here I am talking about building bricks.
I like where you're going.
Just in terms of, it's like if you're constantly discounting what you have done and achieved, then you don't have a foundation to build upon. So I urge anyone who goes into that loop of discounting the positive to make this a changing point. If you're hearing this now, make this a point where you're no longer going to do that to yourselves, so that you can build upon what you have already done. And then the other one is,
well, before you go on, I want to add to that, because you said something really wonderful the other day when we were having a side chat, and you said, everything that I have done has led me to where I am and has helped me in some way to move forward in the trajectory and path that I am on today. I'm using what happened in the past in a very positive way. And I love that you said that, and I think that goes to discounting the positive, that you're like, no, everything that happened, it happened for a reason, and it's worked out for my benefit, and I'm using it now. Right. And I love that you said that.
Thank you. That actually brought Tears to my eyes.
Oh.
Because it's true, you know, the things that worked out were for my benefit. The things that didn't work out, that was also for my benefit.
Right.
The times that I, you know, had to dive into the deep end of the pool, even though I didn't feel like I was ready,
Mhm.
I ended up gaining from that
Right.
knowledge and experience. And I think I really believe that everything that came before this moment has prepared me for this moment.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
And then, so the other cognitive distortion that I wanted to mention was jumping to conclusions, making assumptions without evidence, including, you know, mind reading, assuming that others are thinking negatively about you, or fortune telling, predicting a negative outcome, when, you know, these are just thoughts in our heads.
Right.
And it's like, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Like, you know,
Right.
put a pause in and ask yourself that question. Because, you know, if there's no evidence to back up your assertion, your claim, then it's a mental exercise, and it's one that you are harming yourself with, and you have a choice. You don't have to do that.
Right. Sometimes our own imagination is the thing that is keeping us back. You know, instead of imagining a future with possibility, we start imagining a future with failure. And so what you focus on is what you get. So, you know, you have to focus on your trajectory and knowing that, hey, I'm going to need to pivot a few times, but, you know, create a brilliant path for yourself instead of a path where you just see failure for yourself.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. We can really envision what it is that we want to achieve and go forward and toward that in hope and positivity, right? As opposed to, this is never going to work. I'm never going to be able to do this. You know, that negative thinking that keeps you stuck and keeps you from actually taking a chance, moving forward, and going after that thing that you want to do or accomplish.
So we're going to jump into how to overcome some of this self-blame, right? Because yeah, you know, this is something that that happens to a lot of us, and it happens often to many of us, where we start blaming ourselves. And these are things that we can try to do to help us to get out of that funk of that self-blame. And on top of the list is always practice self-compassion, right? Because when you start to treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend, and you acknowledge your feelings, and the key here is without judgment, you open up a space within you that breeds more love and understanding and more self-validation, which is what you need to realize that you know, we all make mistakes. We're not going to change the past. We forgive ourselves like we would forgive anyone else. And we love ourselves, because as we love ourselves, we will love others. And we're always looking to create more peace in the world, right? And so if we start with practicing that self-compassion.
Right. And I know that this is something that many people struggle with. And I want to add in, with regards to the self-compassion, you know, think about that flaw of yours, something that you find, you know, something that if you could wave a magic wand, you would just get rid of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that maybe you don't accept about yourself. You really want to distance yourself from it. Now, picture someone that you love having that same flaw, and or making that same mistake that perhaps you made. And just envision that they have that, And how accepting are you? How forgiving are you of that other person? And if that other person deserves your love and compassion, your acceptance and forgiveness, then you do too.
Right.
You do too.
Right. I
Um,
love that.
so moving on to reframing negative thoughts, challenging these self-critical thoughts by questioning their validity and then replacing them with a more balanced perspective. Because sometimes we have this negative thought that we just keep repeating and repeating, and we don't question it, and we don't analyze it, or we just accept the negative thought. But if, again, we can pause and investigate the amount of truth behind that thought, if we can poke holes into that thought and then replace it with something more balanced,
Mhm.
that alone can help change the trajectory of your life.
Absolutely. Asking that question, is this true? Is it an absolute truth? That whole, Byron Katie question that she's so famous for. Is this absolutely true? And that definitely it just reminded me of, breathing. Just asking that question, is this true? Allows for a breath. And that breath, that pause is enough for you to change that trajectory. I love what you said. I really do. Going on to the next one, developing emotional awareness. And we speak about this a lot because if you are someone who that feels that they're into a lot of self-blame, that they practice a lot of self-blame, the thing that you need to do is start by looking, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is the result, but what's the trigger, right? What's causing me to do this? And triggers are often stem from fear, from anxiety, from insecurities, from rejection, from rage. And if you notice which trigger is causing you to leap into self blame, then you can again take that pause, right? Take that breath. It's about that pause. And that's one of the keys to developing that emotional awareness is that pause, right?
Absolutely. And going on to focus on growth, shifting your mindset to see challenges as opportunities, for learning and growth rather than indicators of failure. This is like one of my most favorite things to 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 practice for myself, because there will be challenges,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is the nature of life. There will be challenging situations and circumstances. And if we view it as something that's insurmountable, or something that's happening to us that we're so burdened with, and oh, another challenge, and you fall into kind of a victim mode, that is not really helpful. But if you see it as an opportunity for growth, then you can, kind of with curiosity and anticipation, how is this going to force me to grow? What am I going to learn from this? What are the skills that I'm going to gain?
Right, right. I love that. I love that because yes, that's the pivot that you need. How you see things, right? If how you change how you see things, things will change for you, and that's huge. I love that. Um, and surround yourself with support. I lost my place here. I forgot. I focus on what you were saying, but surround yourself with support. Don't if you feel like you're going into this self blame, don't pick up the phone and talk to somebody that doesn't support you. That's the worst thing that you can do. Call somebody that is a friend that says, "Hey, look, you're going to be okay." You know, let's sit down and have a cup of tea, cup of coffee. Let's go over this. Pick a friend to help you to get out of that cognitive distortion, that black and white thinking, and that can say to you, look, you're looking at this a little from this angle. Let's take a look at it from the other angle. And that's a great friend. Somebody that says, hey, you're looking at it this way. Let's try to look at it this way, instead of somebody that goes, oh, let's just drown in this pity. Let's just drown and life is not fair and all of that stuff. No, pick somebody that's going to help you and help you shift your thinking and is supportive and will help you to validate you, right?
Yeah. This reminds me of a conversation that I had with a client earlier this week. They said something, and I'm just gonna like paraphrase what they said.
Okay.
Basically, it was something along the lines of wanting to be the presence that could just put their arms around someone
Mm-hmm.
and walk along a path together. And it's something that I think you suggested. It's sometimes we just need someone to be present with us and to just acknowledge, yes, this is difficult. I have been through other difficulties, some similar, and I'm going to be here with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Sometimes that's what you need, is just a presence of, yeah, I'm here with you and for you.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
And then seeking feedback, requesting constructive feedback from trusted colleagues or friends, and focusing on areas of growth rather than our shortcomings. It's so easy to focus on our own lack and where we could improve. And sometimes it's actually more helpful to remember
Mm-hmm.
the skills that we do have, the positive characteristics and traits. And again, this goes into the distortions. We can get into that thinking where
Right.
oh, I did this poorly and so I'm terrible. It's just,
Right.
yeah. I failed the test, I'm so stupid, that kind of thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Or I had a typo. Oh my God. My boss saw that. It's just ruined my presentation. No. No. Is it going to be important in 5 years? I don't think so. Yeah. And then again, this mindfulness practice, right? You need to take a space, and mindfulness is the perfect time for you to step back. Whether you go outside and take a little breather, even if you just go into, the hallway for a minute, or you go get a glass of water, if you have the time, meditation, obviously, a walking meditation, some deep breathing, all of this is designed for you to take a breath, to take deep breaths and center yourself. And sometimes you have a longer period where you can center yourself with, some self-compassion, some kindness, some gentle words for yourself, and say it's going to be okay. Or just, even if you just listen to just a little bit of music. I love the way the girls in Grey's Anatomy, they used to just say, oh, life is like difficult, and they would put music on and they would start jumping and dancing and, letting that energy out. Anything that gives you space between what's happening and what the plan is to overcome this challenge, or to move forward with what life has presented you.
Yeah. And, what I find with mindfulness practices is that when we cultivate a practice of mindfulness, then it's something that we have like in our back pocket. because, we're going to get thrown into challenging, situations, and
Yeah.
to be able to have an automatic response of, okay, I'm going to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do a mindfulness practice and just center myself, give myself a break from the mental chatter, and just develop some inner peace and calm. Like cultivating that calm is something that is so beneficial. It's so helpful to be able to kind of just stop and be like, okay, I don't have to react to this. I can center myself and then respond.
Right. I think that, and we both do this, is before, and before I do some of the hypnotherapy or some of the other, modalities like tapping and eye movement therapy, we always try to get the person to create a safe place, right? And that's so important. And when you can take that outside of any session, and when you have a safe place in your mind, because one of the most dangerous neighborhoods is in your mind. And so we need a safe place in there.
Absolutely. And then set realistic goals. Establish achievable goals and celebrate your small successes. And this helps to build confidence and, reduce feelings of inadequacy when you can establish that, yes, there are things that I'm working towards, and you can see the steady progression towards that goal. And you can, celebrate the wins, celebrate how far you've come, celebrate that, you didn't recoil from that challenge, but you went forward. This is a way to kind of establish proof within yourself that I can do things, I can achieve goals, and creating confidence that doesn't happen from sitting on your hands. It's action based.
Right.
And the way to start is by setting realistic goals.
Right. Break it down. Break down the goal that you want to achieve into the smaller steps that you can begin this path, right? And that's really what it takes. It's knowing where you want to go, because overwhelm is from not knowing how you're going to get there. And so this set really realistic goals, break it down. What is the first thing that's going to get you onto this path?
Yeah. And that's, a lot of people go into overwhelm because they see the, where they are, where they want to be, and this, this expanse, and how am I going to get there? But, it's just break it down. Like you said, what are the 3 simple steps that you can take today? Breaking it down to the smallest, simplest steps, and then doing those things, and then the next 3, and then the next 3. And if you do that consistently, you're on your way. You're on your way.
Yeah. Great. Wow, Lourdes, we've done it again. One question. So next week we will have to answer more questions.
Well, we've spoken about this, off camera, obviously, that it is about providing real value and something that's will help the audience, any viewers, to make a positive change in their own lives, right where they are today. And, hopefully we've offered implementable steps and a way forward so that people can help themselves.
Right. It's really about empowerment. It's really about empowerment. But if anyone needs to, wants more information, has any questions, would like to have some coaching, please reach out to us. Please, direct message us. And we will see everyone next week. And I hope everyone stays safe. I'm down in Florida, and I'm praying for, my neighbors up in the Panhandle that are going to have this huge hurricane.
Mhm.
And I'm praying for the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you next week.
All righty.